All right, it's Saturday afternoon. It's about 20 of 2. Today is deconstruction day. All the fenders, the doors, everything are coming off. I'm going to pull the windows out. I've got a crate here set up for the windows all ready to go, and I'm going to basically get the truck ready to be hauled away hopefully this week. So everything is coming off, and I've got to find a place to put it all. So I got a new box from the Scout Connection the other day with a new wiring harness. They, when I let them know what had happened with the first harness, they got back to me really quick and said, "Oh yeah, the truck that they had pulled from had the VIN switched, and so the harness that they started with was not the right harness. So they took the time and built me a brand new harness from a 63 model with all the components and elements that I need, and it's pretty much all wired. It's all checked out and labeled, which is fantastic. There's a couple things that aren't labeled that I'm going to look at the service manual for and just figure out. I mean, the bulkhead connector is pretty much, I know what that is, but like there's a plug here that doesn't have a label for it. And then there's this one here. These are both, they look like they're almost identical. This one's 18, and I think this one's 30, or no, 12. The nice thing is they have all still got their numbers on them, so all I've got to do is basically just trace them down. The 18 here, this is for one of the front lights, and the 30 is going to be for the other front light, I believe. So it's just a matter of chasing those down and figuring out where they go and what they do. Not too big a deal. This one again came with a, they left the key switch on there and some other stuff. It's got a full fuse panel, so that's great. I can just plug the fuse panel into my dashboard and go, which is fantastic. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort, but we'll get it done. The other thing they did was there were a couple of places where some of the wires had been, clearly they had been cut, so they spliced in new wires and put new numbers on them, so I know where they go and what they do. They did that here, and then there's a couple over here in the same condition. So all of that looks really good. Looks like they rewrapped it too in new electrical tape, which was also very nice. So basically I just have to start tearing the dashboard down and putting in the new wires. Just for comparison, this was the original, and while it looked really good and it was a really clean setup, this is clearly not the same as this one. Clearly when I pulled this out of the box, it wasn't correct because the fuse block is the older style fuse block. This is the dimmer switch that goes on the floor, and the way that this would mount, I mean, there's not a whole lot of room between where the dimmer switch would go and where the fuse block would mount up under the dash somewhere. The first part of this went really fast because I've already taken this stuff off before and just fastened it with one bolt, so it was just one bolt to get it off. I just had to find a place to put it all. The doors were a bit of a different story. The front doors didn't want to come out so easily because the backing plates that are inside the A-pillars were basically frozen to the hinges, and I needed to make more room. So I wound up having to cut into the A-pillars to get the front doors off. The back doors came off a lot easier. That really wasn't a challenge. I really hated to cut into this truck again, but I had to do what I had to do to get the parts off of it that I needed. It was at this point that the wind that you've been hearing in the background knocked both of my tripods over. So I got this really cool kind of Batman angle of the truck. You can't see me taking the door off, but I thought it was kind of cool, so I left it in here. All right, the front doors are out. That took some doing. And now my wife is going to come out and we're going to get the rear windows out. We're going to start with driver's side and then we'll move over to the passenger side. I've got the crate sitting behind the Scout over there. Wish us luck. Both of the windows are out of the truck. I cut the rubber on the inside. My wife sat inside and we just pushed the window towards her, carried it out just like we did in Ohio. They both came out without a hitch. A little bit of this black stuff here on the edges, but that's not too bad. So this thing is just about gutted and ready to go. I am now going to get the Sawzall, or not the Sawzall, but the angle grinder, and I'm going to cut probably up here, across, and down. I'm going to keep this quarter panel, and I am definitely cutting this quarter panel to save it so that I can transplant this section of it to the grid bus, because that's all good metal and I'm never going to be able to bend that myself, and it's pretty cool. So this is another tool, sort of like an impact hammer, that is supposed to let you take bolts off easily. You hammer on it, and it's got sort of a handle that you twist as you're hammering. I think Eastwood makes an actual pneumatic version of this tool that looks like it probably works much easier. I just wound up resorting to drilling these things out because I didn't have time, and the bolts had already been stripped, and I just didn't feel like bothering with it. So both of these came out super easy. So what follows here is a time-lapse, shrunk down a lot, of me basically drilling the spot welds out of the entire rear fender of this thing. Originally I was just going to use a cutoff wheel, but I think I took the challenge on of trying to drill out all the spot welds and get it out as one entire unit, which of course took longer than I thought. I spent the last probably hour and a half drilling out all the spot welds. I'm going all the way up here, I'm going all the way down there. This is free. The wheel well is still not quite done. I think I've got most of this section done. I'm working on this up here, and I'm trying to figure out how far I'm going to go, because if I go all the way up to the top here, I basically have to get the angle grinder and grind out the entire roof line there. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do. But what I want is I want everything from about here down all the way up to the door, which I think I could probably do. It's just a matter of figuring out where these last couple are. I'm running out of time. You can see the sun's going down over there. So I'm not going to be able to get to this side today, which sucks. So I'm probably going to have this in my driveway for another week, but that's going to be what it's going to be. So I'll just have to, go with what I've got here. But I'm almost done. Some of these have popped out really quick. I'm trying to get the ones in this corner here. This all popped out with just like drills basically, which is crazy. And I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with this corner up here. The entire section all the way down there is ready to go. So yeah, I'm just chasing down the last couple. And it was at this point that the girls came home and brought me dinner, which was ice cream from Baskin-Robbins, which was right on time. Not as nutritious as I probably needed, but tasted damn good going down. This happens to me every time. This spot weld drill bit that I got from Harbor Freight has lasted me for the entirety of the day. Seemed like it was getting a little tired, so I swapped it out with a new one. This new one lasted for about 6 welds and then exploded. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, seriously, this one has made it way around this truck. And I'm going to have to try to get this little piece of metal out and put this back on and use it, because I'm running out of light and time. But man, that's annoying. This was some of the progress I made before I had to call it for that night. Again, the whole edge was done. At this point, I had cleaned up the top edge there. I'm just trying to go around and see if I'm missing anything, but you can see that that bottom lip is completely gone. The whole top, I've ground that out with the angle grinder. The whole front edge is done. This bottom section of the underside lip is done. It was the underside lip that was really hard to figure out where the spot welds were, because it had been dented and run into a bunch of different things, and so the usual telltale divots aren't there, and it's really hard to sort of figure it out unless you wheel it around and really
really search for where the spot welds are. I'll peek down in this area later on. You'll see how bad it is. This is from the following night. This is after I had gotten a lot more of those welds out, and I'm just hunting down those last couple of welds at the bottom of the fender lip there. Basically, again, just wiggling it until I can figure out where it's still stuck together. And it was at this point I think I had figured out where that last section was. So I started just gently drilling it. And in a big surprise, the whole thing fell down right in my lap. Luckily, nothing was broken, didn't bend it or anything like that. I just sort of gently picked it up and moved it out of the way. And it looked really good. I mean, there's a lot of surface rust on the inside of this thing, and I'll go through it in a minute. But I think at this point I was just so surprised I got the whole thing off, I had to sort of stand there and stare at it for a minute. Check out where they sprayed through the taillight hole with the paint. That's about all they did for rust coating.
The rear quarter panel is off. This is what the inside looks like. A lot of surface rust. Down here it gets a little crispy. The wheel arch itself is actually pretty solid. It's pretty solid all the way down. It gets crispy there. It looks like there's some nasty stuff where, you know, dirt and everything can get under there, but this whole back section looks really clean. I'm going to try to steal this plate in a minute. I'm just grind that bolt off and steal this plate. The top up here came off really easy. That's another channel up there that looks like it's, you know, it would do well to get sprayed with some sort of encapsulator or something. This whole area back here, same deal. So it took a bit of doing, but the whole thing is off. And so now I've got a spare Travelall rear quarter for the driver's side, all the way around. It's not going to fit because it's going to be slightly different. You'll see the dog leg bend there is different than mine, which basically just goes straight up. I've got cutouts for the hinges here. It'll be interesting to it'll actually be interesting to measure this to this and see what it looks like. But it's really nice to have that out. So I'm going to start working on the passenger side next. It is Monday evening? Tuesday evening. I've got all of the spot welds down on the outside edge. I did them on the inside of the window on this side, all the way around. So they're all out. I'm pretty sure this corner is clear. All this stuff is done all the way around. I just did the area down to the door, down to here. The only thing that's left should be the wheel arch and underneath. This one isn't going to come off as easy as the other one because it's in worse shape, but I'm going to do my best to get it off. And then I'm actually going to put the chrome back on this thing. So yeah, that's where this one stands now. The only other thing I've got to do to this is carefully grind out the edge up here all the way around where it's bonded up there. But yeah, that's pretty good evening's work. This was just like maybe an hour of being out here. I'm actually considering taking the wheel arches out while I'm at it, and just stripping this thing for as many weird sheet metal parts as I can. Wednesday night. I'm still working on this thing. The back side is completely off. The top, this whole area along here is completely apart. This section is completely apart. All the way down here, this I think is hanging on because of the bend in the panel here. I'm pretty sure the wheel well is ready to go. There's one or two more things in this area that are not letting go. I've got to figure that out. This part here is ready. I'm finishing the stuff underneath here, which is really hard to get to, and it's really funky to see, but it's like there's a bunch of different stuff going on there, and it gets really crispy down there towards where the bottom of the wheel well is. All right, passenger side is off. If you ever wanted to see what the backside of the spare tire section of this thing looks like, that's what it looks like. Looks like this was in pretty rough shape underneath there. There's a lot of water getting in the window and sitting down into the spare tire area there. All looks pretty good. This side actually up top is in a much better shape than the other side is, but no rust proofing whatsoever throughout this whole thing. So I know what I've got to do in the 63 again. Nothing too crazy to report here, just took a bit of time. It's in rougher shape than the other one is, but still usable, so I'm going to hang on to it and you know, tuck that away for safekeeping. Again, put the chrome back on it, and we'll call that good.
Good morning. Today's project is to get all of the crap in the garage. I've just stuffed in the garage, organized and cataloged so I know where things are and I can actually walk around. I can't walk around the garage right now. It's absolutely full of stuff. I've got a table here. I'm going to be building crates for the windows to get them out of the back of the Scout. I've got to take pictures of a bunch of stuff that I'm going to sell, and again, just moving stuff around. I found somebody in town who's got some pallets. I've got the hood from the Travelall out behind the garage. I'm going to put it up on some pallets so it's up off the ground. Probably build some sort of a shade or a shelter for it above it. I might have to put the tailgate back there too for the time being until I can really sort out the garage. But yeah, today is mainly just organizing parts. I may try, if I can, to get the wheel wells out of the green truck. That's good sheet metal. They might be good to save too. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the axles. But for now, today's mainly just organization. And it's a beautiful day. It's going to be in the 80s today. Yesterday was raining and 50, so God only knows. So yeah, I'll try to take you around as much as I can today. I built a couple of boxes a few weeks ago, so those were ready. What I wound up doing was getting a couple of moving blankets from Harbor Freight, laying those down, laying the glass on top of the first fold of the blanket, folding it over, and then finding a way to secure it into the box. The way I did that was I used a piece of wood, some foam, and a bit of spongy cardboard to basically hold the glass to the back of the crate so that it wouldn't move back and forth and basically hit against the box if I moved it in anywhere in the garage. So here I'm basically sorting out how much of that cardboard is good to be as springy as it needs to be without being too mobile and too, pressing down on the glass too much. So I figured that out, secured it into place, and got it ready for the top of the box to go in. To make sure that things didn't move from side to side, I found a couple of really cheap pool noodles at the dollar store and used those on the sides, top and bottom. This way, the glass would be secure inside, but wouldn't be shaking around inside the box as I had to move it from place to place in the garage, which is all I really wanted to do. I wanted to give it a little bit of flexibility, but not a lot. Then I used the pre-made covers and put those on top, basically setting those into place. I actually wound up cutting down the feet for these things to make them a little bit shallower so they stacked better in the garage. Here they're the original height, and I realized after I had put them in place that it was much too big. When I was done with that, I went back out to the back of the garage and started pulling all of this insulation out of the top of the hood. This had already been a home for critters when the truck was sitting in the field. There were all sorts of nuts and other things up here as I was pulling it out. And because I don't have a good place to store it inside right now, I didn't want them to return. So it was a pretty simple thing to just scrape it off of the metal and get things prepped. Dirty as hell because the stuff is 60 years old, but it came off pretty easily, and I just threw it in a bag and was done with it. You can't see here, but I'm actually wearing a mask because this stuff is just gnarly. I had to remove a bunch of the bracing struts when I was pulling that stuff out, so I'm just putting all of that stuff back in place so I know where it is and I don't wind up losing any of it. Here's the hood and the tailgate up on a set of pallets in my backyard until I can find a new home for them. On the right, there's the pedal assembly and a couple of other things in a box. I've got 4 bins full of parts from the green truck, plus a couple of things that don't fit in the bins up on top. The gray one is basically stuff from the red Travelall and things I bought in other places. This pile of stuff are all the big, huge metal things that I can't fit in bins, the ram assembly, the heating units down below, the manifold right there, or the intake manifold, yeah. And above that is the steering wheel column. That's the red fender from the red truck I'm working on. Those 2 boxes back there are the crates I built for the windows, for the rear windows in the Travelall. They are safely stored in back there. That's the, what is that? The passenger fender from the green truck. And then over here, that's the radiator that I've got from the C-Series truck, and the 4 doors are stacked up here under the window, which is the best I can do right now. I am out of space in here. I'm still trying to find a place to put the nose for this thing, which I don't have a good place for. Basically, all of my wall space in here is completely full of stuff, and I've got one Scout bench seat there that I've got to find a home for because I've got another one behind the windows over there that's actually in better shape. You can see I've got other stuff hanging from the rafters. I mean, it is just completely full. I went through each of these 4 bins and opened them up, put everything inside out on a table and took pictures of it. I'm gonna catalog it all. There's an app somewhere where you can stick a barcode on this thing and have a list on your phone of all the stuff that's in the bins.
which I should do because besides these 5 bins, I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bins over here of Scout and Travelall stuff that I need to keep track of. And then I got a bunch of bins in the basement as well. It's getting a little out of control here. Over here I've got both of the rear quarters from the Travelall stored safely up in the attic. They've been hit with rust encapsulator on the inside, so hopefully they'll stay safe and dry. And then right here is the dashboard for the green Travelall. It's going to stay up here nice and safe until I'm ready to take it down, understand what's going on behind it, and start working on the electrical for my truck. And then behind me I've got a bunch of other stuff stored. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff up here, all sorts of parts and pieces that I've got to go through. Some of this is going to get sold, but it's all safe for now, which is nice.
So I'm nearing the end of this particular part of the project. There's not anything left really to pull off of this, but now it's time to see if I can find a scrapper who can haul this out of here for me. I really want to get back to work on the red truck. I really want the space back in my driveway, and I really kind of want to get it out of here before I decide I want to pull more stuff off of it, which is getting to be kind of a disease. So that's it for this week. It might not be the sexiest of videos, but it's the last of the stuff that needed to get done. So check back next week. I might have an update on the axle, and if not, hopefully I'll have an update on where this thing is going and when it's leaving. If you've made it this far in the video, you might be interested in some merch I've got for sale on threadless.com to keep this project going. I'll put a link down below in the description. Thanks for watching.